How's it going, people? Tactard Ted, and what do I want to speak with you about today? Well, real simple, folks. I want to talk to you about how you are being deceived by big tech. Yes, big tech. Big tech. You know, they run Google, they run Twitter, they run Facebook, they run all the major companies dealing with technology, and they own almost all of the social media platforms. And the social media platforms are important, so are your search engines, because they can control what comes up when you search words. A good example of this is when you type in a certain group of words, like War in Donbass 2014, and all you get is the current stuff and the current narrative on the war going on in Ukraine. When you want to know about the background, what happened before, and there's a lot of other instances. If you bring up ISIS fighters living in seclusion in Ukraine, which there are plenty of stories about how ISIS fighters put themselves in Ukraine to avoid returning to their home country after being expelled from Syria, so they don't want to go home and get killed or punished for their crimes. Those are now well buried, and of course it'll talk about how, well, you know, Putin's wanting to get Syrians involved in the war in Ukraine. You know, not terrorists, the Syrian government, the government that ISIS was actually fighting against. You know, it's interesting how big tech controls all that. So I was kind of appalled today, well, actually the last few days, that a lot of advertisements are going out across Facebook and social media. Don't let Congress interfere with big tech. Our national security requires it. Yes, don't let China or Russia get ahead of us. And hey, you know what? I'm a patriotic American. I don't want Russia or China especially ahead of us. And why do I say China especially? Because China has been benefiting from a lot of the sanctions. They were buying up natural gas. They've been buying up other products on the cheap, and now they're selling them because of the sanctions. The energy prices went up, and they're selling them on the European market, and they are making a killing. At the same time, they are threatening Taiwan. So, to me, I don't want the Chinese to benefit from anything I do. But there's a problem with this. And the problem we had just discussed a moment ago. Big tech censors you. Big tech controls the narrative. They control what you see. And it's really, really telling when a group of former generals and intelligence community folks got together and said, we need big tech because their powers of censorship are what we need in the future. Censorship, they mentioned it in it. You can go look it up. I'm going to have to find a different platform where I can do other videos like the Great Salty Cracker and have the information up here so you can see it on the internet on my page while little video me plays in the corner. But I don't have that technology yet, folks, and I'm a working stiff and I'm on my way to work. So apologize. You can look it up, though. A group of individuals said they need big tech intact. We need to keep the monopoly because of their powers of censorship are important in a time of war. Well, what that means is they already know that those folks are engaging in censorship, and they want to excuse it. They want to allow it for whatever purpose. And a lot of that has to do with controlling the narrative. And they're playing to your patriotism and your love of country and your own idea of self-preservation to kind of twist the debate. It's no longer about freedom of speech. There's a lot of reasons why freedom of speech is number one in the Bill of Rights. There is a lot of reasons that should show the importance of the freedom of speech. That is it. Why is it number one? Well, the same reason that the right to keep and bear arms is number two. Because if you can't back up number one with number two, you ain't got shit. And that's just the fact of the matter. If you don't have arms to force the issue when number one is being trampled, or any of the other Bill of Rights, because somebody decides to engage in unconstitutional activity and they want to keep you down. You're not going to prevail unless you have means to wrest power from them. Now, before you get to say, oh, Dave, you're wanting more against the government. No, I'm not wanting more against the government. I'm explaining to you what the framers of the Constitution thought. And this is one of the things we don't teach in school anymore. Nor do we teach or have as required reading George Orwell's book, 1984. And if there's any adult in this country who has not read 1984, please read it. Please read it and look at today's happenings and everything that's going on, and look through it through the filter of 1984. And you see where 1984, Big Brother and all that leads. And start to be very concerned. Start to be very concerned about the censorship, the wordplay, the controlling of the narrative that's going on. And once again, not only are they playing with the narrative, but they are now twisting words. They're twisting the whole thing, the whole argument for breaking up the big tech monopolies, and they're trying to make you scared. And fear, that's one thing that most of these people have, is fear. And they want to keep you afraid. And they fear the truth getting out. One of the things I thought was interesting this week, and part of the thing that may be driving this big tech monopoly thing, is the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter. And there was some jackwagon on there from one of the news networks. And he says, imagine they have a social media platform now. And imagine they could take one of our candidates and ban him. You mean like you did Donald Trump. And they could make our messages don't appear. They can turn the knob and their messages won't be out there as much. And they can turn the knob the other way and then inflate other messages that counter ours. You mean like Facebook's been doing for a while? You mean like Twitter's been doing for a while? You mean like a violation of freedom of speech? They're not. And that's subtle. That's not even a violation of freedom of speech. That's just stacking the deck so that one side gets out. Does it violate freedom of speech? Not by the letter, but technically what they're doing is they're stacking the deck against you. They're not allowing your words to get out. And let me tell you what, if they don't fear your words, nothing gets said. And I will make this point about how you can tell when somebody's being honest, or when you can tell somebody is worried about what that somebody's being honest is when somebody moves in to stop them. And a great example of this is Gonzalo Lira. And if you don't know what's Gonzalo Lira, or you don't know anything, please go on the internet and look it up. Anyhow, Gonzalo was broadcasting from Ukraine about all the things that were bullshit that we were being told about Ukraine. And do you know how it's true? Because the Ukrainian SBU, the Ukrainian equivalent of the KGB, came and paid a visit to Mr. Gonzalo Lira and made him disappear for about a week. And they let him out, and he's not allowed to say what happened during that week, but they confiscated his phone, his laptop, and all the other things he uses to access the internet. Made him sign a gag order, and he's not allowed to leave. Now, there is an American citizen that is not allowed to leave a foreign country. And while that is legitimate, I want to know why the U.S. Embassy isn't stepping in to help. But the whole thing is, if what he was saying was lies, then they would laugh at it. They would ignore it. But the simple fact that they moved to squelch it means that there's some validity in that. And that's the whole reason that the left wants to squelch the right's talk. And I'll be quite honest with you, I don't consider myself left or right. But when one side, and I don't care if it's right wing, I don't care if it's left wing, goes to stomp on any of the essential freedoms that are granted to us in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, I got an issue with that. I also got an issue with political elites on both sides trying to force their beliefs on you, force their way of thinking, and basically not trying to win you over for arguments, but twisting your arm to get their way. Anyhow, that's my 10-minute rant for today, Wednesday. Today's the 27th of April. So everybody take care and adios.